back to another episode of the Moz House podcast. I'm your host, Hunter Begun, and I'm here with our current exhibiting artist at Moz House, Michael Butler. Very happy to be talking to you today. How are you doing?
I'm doing very well. Thank you, Hunter. It's glad to finally meet up with you. It's taken a while, but here we are, so I guess we can get started.
I'm very excited. So, currently, you're on view until June 29th, I believe. June 27th.
Right.
2024. So, a couple more weeks for everyone to come see it. The show is amazing.
Thank you.
I'm always there's so much talent here on Long Island. And Jeremy finds all the best ones somehow for shows at Moz House. He's like, okay, we're getting this guy. Oh, I don't know who that is. And then it's like the most amazing artwork I've ever seen. Doesn't make any sense how he does it every time. Impresses me. And then the artists are always amazing too.
Well, working with Brianna and Jeremy has just been amazing. And again, just like with you and me, it took a while for us to finally get connected and for the show to come off. But this is perfect timing. I mean, this end of spring, beginning of summer, it's just really, this is my favorite time of year. So I was really inspired to get this show up and running. You know, sometimes in wintertime, I go into a slump. You know, that artist slump that we all kind of, I think, experience from time to time. So this was really great.
Yeah. This is my birthday month. One of my favorite times of year. For sure. My only issue with this time of year is the amount of ticks I have to battle every year over here.
Yeah, I pulled one off of me the other day. That was the third this season already. So I'm like really, and I spray myself. I put on the Zevo. I do spray my clothes, but still I'm a gardener also. That's my other favorite passion. Wow. So I'm always outdoors doing that creative thing as well as my painting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I am so close to breaking down and getting it sprayed professionally because I just got a dog, and I'm like, I don't want to put the chemicals out there, but it's so bad. Like last night he had over 10 ticks.
No
and he
way.
was out there for like 2 minutes. Yeah.
Wow. Well, maybe there's something organic that can be used. I don't know. They talk about peppermint, eucalyptus oils. Maybe. Who knows?
True. Hope so. Hopefully I can find a solution because I don't want to get Lyme's disease. That's like.
Well, I had it years and years ago. I mean, I recovered obviously. So, but no, you don't want any of that other stuff, ehrlichiosis, babebiosis, any of that other horrible tick-borne diseases.
One last thing before we move on to the important stuff of the podcast, the art. The other day I heard they're in human trials for Lyme's disease vaccine now.
Took long enough.
Yeah, honestly, they should have had that years ago. I guess maybe it's difficult to do. So many people, especially if people who live in like New York and Long Island, there's so many.
It doesn't make sense. It's endemic. You can't get away from it anymore. There's no getting away from it.
Yeah, I need to start raising bats. I think that's an option.
I'd say it was the guinea hens and wild turkeys, I think. Aren't they supposed to be tick eaters or something? So I don't know.
I have been seeing a little more than usual wild guinea hens and turkeys. But you haven't seen any for like years.
The turkeys, they used to come through here, through my block, but I think since there's been so much more building and fences going up, they just don't make it through here, through my backyard any longer. So it's a shame. But yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
So are you currently located in Sag Harbor still?
I sure am. Yes. Mm-hmm.
So you've been an artist in Sag Harbor for a really long time, according to all the articles I found of you. So could you enlighten some of the listeners about who you are and a little bit about your art?
Well, I moved out here full time. I grew up summering in Sag Harbor, but I moved here full time in 1989. And people often ask me, well, did you move here for the light? Everybody talks about the artists move here for the light, which is amazing, but that was not my focal point. I had been working and living in the city. Well, I lived in Brooklyn, worked in Manhattan. And I just came out here. I decided I was going to be an artist. Well, it took me a while to actually define myself as an artist. Maybe about another 15 years, maybe the early 2000s, I said, I'm actually an artist. And it seems more so that people kind of put that name upon me as me identifying myself as such, but now I do claim that full identity. And most of my work revolves around, well, initially, it started out where I was doing mythology, works based on mythological themes, religious themes, dream interpretations, and I'm drawn to color. Mostly like deep jewel tones were my first love, like teals and blues. I do a lot of work still with the sea because I think I find those colors just most entrancing, most inspirational, more so than, say, the sky, although clouds also inform a lot of my work. So I somewhat now have moved into more of the realm of being a documentarian. Also an amateur historian, and I live here in the Eastville community, which provides quite a lot of resource information for my works. There's a lot of untold history with indigenous people, African American people who may have been enslaved here. They're also, I don't want to say entombed here, but perhaps interred here. Grave sites, both marked and unmarked. And lately, I'm trying to bring to life these personalities because they were at one time living, breathing people. And, of course, according to some traditions, they're still alive, but in another realm. And I'm just working on telling the untold stories. There's been so much work lately with David Rattray and Donna Marie Barnes with the In Plain Sight project and Hidden in Plain Sight and Forgetting to Remember projects, which are documenting mostly the enslaved people of Sylvester Manor, but also the East End as a whole. So with a lot of these untold stories, there may be very limited information, perhaps if they were, and once upon a time we would have called them runaway slaves, but I find that a demeaning term because it makes them sound like errant children who did not like what they were having for lunch or something like that. But no, they were freedom seekers. They were self-emancipators. And in a article from the time period, you may see something about, well, Tom ran away. He was 90 years of age. He had on blue pants, a buff colored jacket. So a lot of this entails a deep dive into history. What color was buff considered in, say, the late 18th century? What shade of blue might have been worn? What were the materials? What actually were the styles? Because styles, of course, as we all know, change. Not so much as rapidly as they did maybe 200 years ago, but they also do change quite a bit. So this also involves that historical part of my interests, where I do a deep dive in hairstyles, both of African people, indigenous people, the fabrics they chose, the colors, everything else. And so this helps me bring to life this individual. So you had mentioned the work, let's say, when maybe Professor Van Houten battles a sea monster, where my brother had found an article from 1904 of a Professor James Van Houten, whom I had known about because his wife's family are Montaukett Indians, native people, and we had also bought one of our family homes from the Van Houten family, but they were a family of African American musicians. And he was considered to be a very reliable, sober, stable individual of the community. He was a music professor, taught classes, had his own band or group, I believe. And one day he was out in the bay and he was obviously attacked by some sort of, at the time they called it a sea monster, which turned out to be an octopus.
Hmm.
So I had to look and see, well, what kind of octopi were here in the northeast quadrant? And it's, as people will see at the painting, it's sort of that pinkish orangey color octopus. And I don't know, maybe there was a storm that dragged it up here into the bay because normally they're ocean going creatures. And he had to battle this monster. The octopus had grabbed a hold of his grapnel, which is sort of a three-pronged type of small anchor or something. He battled with that. But the animal was trying to drag him out to sea, and there were several people in boats round about who actually saw this commotion going on at Professor Van Houten's boat. So this is a story no one ever heard about, and I knew of the Van Houtens for a couple of reasons because they lived in Sag Harbor here, and they were African American people mixed with indigenous people. So this really piqued my interest. I said, this is an individual who really needs to be brought to the forefront. We need to hear more about this person, and there are articles about him. There's a photo of his band, his group, when he was a much younger gentleman in the John Germain Library's book of Voices of Sag Harbor. So that's a long way around how I do my work, but that's some inspiration and sort of wraps up that piece and combines my interests in history, documentation, style, people unknown stories. So yeah.
It's one of my favorite things about some artists is what they are making. Kind of after you see it, you're like, what really is this? And it kind of makes you end up having to do your own research, and then you learn a bunch of new things about what is going on. And even if you don't live there, but in my sense, I didn't even know about that story, which is pretty amazing. All I really know about is like the Circassian and like those from the native stories, things that happened that sea over here, not really of the African American ones.
Yeah, the
Uh,
Circassian is another fascinating story. And I have it in the back of my mind to do that. That women. Now I've heard that that didn't really happen. I don't know. I'll go with what I believe is true. But the women sort of mourning on the beach, and the men, trying to pull the survivors to shore, and the ship breaking up. I mean, there are just so many images, and I think it was a nighttime scene also, which
mhm.
also is just it's so full of so many things, and you can just go down a deep rabbit hole in again the time period. What were people wearing? What would they have looked like? What did the boat look like? I mean, boats are very intricate pieces of engineering, which I struggle with all the lines and ropes and everything else. It's like, oh my god! But
That's funny. I was
yeah.
just thinking how amazing the boat looked in that painting
Mm-hmm.
that you made. I actually have a couple resources about the Circassian that I could get to you with a
That would
list
be
of names of
great.
people. Yeah,
Thank
with a
you.
list of names of
Yes.
people who died and
Mm.
the entire story. I actually did an episode of the podcast. It was the only solo podcast I've ever done. Was just a whole Circassian story podcast.
Oh wow, that's
We
amazing.
just use because I find that story so interesting, and I would love to make like a movie about it one day, like a big budget one, and it'd have like all these overarching plot lines, and wouldn't be all totally true, but it'd be like a based on true story. And then like a lot of it would be real, but some of the characters would I probably have like a made up main character or something like that.
Well, that's the
Um,
creative license that one takes. I mean, and I mean,
mhm.
if there's no way of really recording, I mean, there are no known recordings of what actually happened then, so you have to
Yeah,
sort of fill in some of the blanks and make the storyline interesting. I mean, sometimes when I'm with,
exactly.
doing a painting, I kind of struggle and wonder, well, is this really my interpretation? Are people going to accept this and say, well, that's not the way, a whale should be painted or something? But then again,
Hmm.
it's my storyline to tell. It's what I choose to do with it, and people either accept it or not. I mean, I always find it interesting to hear how people respond to my work and receive my message. And very often they'll see things in my paintings and my works that I have no idea are even there. So that's that sort of give and take that I like with interacting with people.
Hmm. So great. I just interviewed another artist for this other the another show we have at Reclamation at the Southampton History Museum,
Yes,
and
right.
their painting to me was like an exact 1-to-1 almost of this scene from Spider-Man,
Hmm.
like into 2000s, where this character is like praying over an altar for them to kill Spider-Man. I was
Hmm.
like, this looks just like that.
Wow.
And then the artist was like, no, this is actually someone in a swimming pool. And then like the shadows, because they were like their hands were like out of the swimming pool, and it
Yes.
looked like they were over it too. And I was like, oh my god. And then I sent them the photo of like the scene. They're like, that actually hits all the same themes. And so like, I got interviewed them about it, and they told me like the whole meaning. And I was like, wow, I got something completely else out of it. But
Yes.
now I enjoyed even more because now I know like the story behind that painting was so amazing. Also,
Yes.
um,
Right. Right.
so
Wow.
that's like my favorite part about the podcast is I really get the deep dive of each piece because as a consumer of art, you're never gonna get everything, but what you do get still matters. It almost because I don't know once you put it out there, it's kind of no longer yours. Um,
That's interesting. Yeah, I have a very difficult time selling my paintings sometimes because I spend so much energy and research and time on them that I kind of have to make sure they go to good homes in a sense. So it's some of them are difficult to part with. Like, there are a few pieces in the show that are not for sale. There's another one that is for sale for the first time. And
mm,
that is the one that you had mentioned also, the Out of the Mists. which shows the two women in a canoe sort of coming out of a mist or a fog. And that
Mm-hmm.
sort of has a meaning also coming out of the mists of time or history. The first woman looks more African American. The younger one behind her in the canoe is more indigenous looking. And again, it's sort of like two unknown women that could very well have existed, or could have been somewhere, anywhere in time, or more recent history. So again, that was the one that I had a difficult time putting a price tag on, because normally it just hangs in
Mm.
my home here. But I said, well, if someone wants it, and I've had it exhibited before, and people really wanted to buy it, and I was not ready to part with it at the time. But it's one of my favorites, actually.
Like one of my God, I can't remember the name of the painting, but I think it's two men and a black woman in the boat, and they're on the canoe, and they're like going over this giant waves with storm clouds in the back. It's one of my
Yes,
favorites.
yes, that's Survivors at Sea, or I actually forget the actual name, Survivors of the Storm,
Sorry, the
and
storm.
that is yeah, that is actually I had actually sold that piece, and the lady bought it. She recently passed away, and she willed it back to me, which I was really
Oh
pleased.
wow.
Yeah, yeah, because that sort of I've done several. I do not really do series of works, but that particular piece sort of sparked a whole new thematic genre in my works. I've done several of people in these stormy seas, sort of
Mm-hmm.
battling the elements, and you're sort of wondering, do they make it back to shore in time or whatever? And it's also based on, again, a family story where when my mother's family first started summering here, they came here in my great uncle's 40-foot cabin cruiser, and they would come from Brooklyn or wherever he moored the boat. And one time they were out here in the bay, and a rough storm uh, stormed up, well, came up, and they were actually sort of in danger of capsizing the boat. And that family memory just sort of generated that series of works. So I just kind of keep up with that theme again, because there's a lot of energy. There are deep colors in it. Um, People that are sort of thrusting themselves against the elements, a situation in which I never hope to find myself. I get seasick just on taking the ferry to Shelter Island, but so I'm not really a seafaring type of a person. So yeah, but that's I will swim, but that's about it.
That's interesting. I like boats, so I'm not a huge. I hate having to be in charge of like driving the boats. I I hate it so much. It's so stressful. Like,
I would
geez.
imagine.
Yeah. Then there's like I went somewhere and there was a bunch of dolphins in the water. You had to like make sure you don't hit any dolphins.
Oh boy.
Uh, yeah.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
family vacation gone horribly stressful on
Oh
the boats. None
God.
of us had any experience, and we're just like, yeah, we can rent it. I'm like, I don't know if we can. We did it anyway, and it was just so stressful. Um, another one of my favorite pieces of yours. I feel like a lot. I actually thought this one was going to be not for sale. The Sag Harbor scene with like kind of looks like it's through a closed window.
Oh yes, right, right. That is it's Sag Harbor Village. One half of the well, it is a shutter. It's a window shutter that I sort of
Mm-hmm.
dismantled somewhat. Took out all the little what do they call, like the jalousie parts that go up and down, and then one half of it shows more of the downtown portion of Sag Harbor Village with the Whaling Museum, the library, the customs house, and then the other part shows more of the neighborhood of Eastville. My own home is actually in there, St. David's AME Zion Church. And then I sort of like fancied it up with some of the little details towards the top of the shutter. And yeah, it's a favorite piece. I really have not exhibited that one too frequently. And I don't know why. Probably because thematically or size wise, it doesn't fit in to the theme of the exhibit. But yeah, that was a fun piece to do. And
Yeah.
I have a lot of shutters in storage down in the basement, so I may do something more of that idea again.
Yeah, I would honestly love to see a series, a show just of these types. This is
Oh
like a
wow,
Windows show. It's just,
that's a
it's
thought.
so eye catching. It's
Mm.
like, because it's if it's not I think it's probably the centerpiece. The first thing people see. So when you walk into Ma's house,
Hmm.
you look right, and you're like instantly drawn to this one because it has a texture, and a lot of
Yes.
paintings don't, and it's kind of 3D. It's like, wow, I'm literally looking through a window into this, like paintings are windows kind of into a story. This is like
Yes.
a window within a
Mm-hmm.
window, and it kind of just adds to it. You can't see the whole picture, but you can if you can, and you just want to open the window to see what's like
Yeah,
inside. Is just that one's just does something really nice for me.
that's a
Um,
good perspective on that, Hunter. I like that. Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Um, so I have a question. What was your like formal education looking like? Did you what did you go to, did you go to college? What did you graduate for? Because you're very well articulated and know your knowledge is amazing.
Well, I have a bachelor's degree. Political science was my major, but I had also sort of minored in African American history. Then I have a master's degree in public administration. So much of my working professional career has been in the field of human services, working with different
Mm,
populations, senior citizens, developmentally disabled, unhoused, homeless youth and adults, children. So I have that type of background. My artistic education is very limited. Only in college, I took a couple of sort of like visual. I took a visual arts course, and then there used to be a something called hmm, I forget it actually, but it would be like adult continuing education courses. So I took maybe some ceramics courses. I took Japanese brush painting,
mm,
but most of my work, most of my techniques I've just developed on my own. I do not have a degree in fine arts. Some people see an MPA and they think right away it should be MFA, Master of Fine Arts, which it is not. So I consider myself to be self-taught in that regard because sometimes I'm still stumped sometimes on the proper brush to use for a particular thing that I do. But most of my works, I use very, very fine brushes, the thinnest brush I can find because I get in there. I like to noodle around with all the details. And so a lot of my blending techniques and things like that I've developed on my own. So I may
mm,
have like, say if I'm working on a section of the painting that's blue, I may have maybe, I don't know, half a dozen different shades of or tones of that blue just to be able to work up from dark to light or light to dark or whatever. So, I know there are a lot of people that are very, very formally trained, but I like to have my own technique as opposed to something else that maybe has been boiled down from someone else.
mm-hmm. I mean, it's definitely worked out. Your art is very recognizable. It has its own stylistic touches, honestly, um, that you have developed over the years. So interesting the difference between people who went to school for art and who haven't. A lot of them kind of get techniques passed down and they take stylistic choices. They're kind of I don't want to say they're not copying. They're just emulating and trying to bring these things forward from back then and kind of modernize it. And then other people get a whole new technique
And
that's kind of never before seen.
and I think maybe that's why it took me a while to really identify myself, define myself as an artist because it did not have you know, a, the formal training. So, I know sometimes there are people that call themselves artists, and I hate to say it, but maybe because they have nothing else to do, or, they're Sunday painters or whatever, and kind of like the work shows it
Mm-hmm.
sometimes. So, and also people that I think sometimes are over technical in their works also. You don't kind of get that soulful feeling that it's really their work. Um, they may be, like you're saying, they're copying someone else's work or whatever, and it's all very subjective to us. We all respond to artworks in different ways. We all have our own likes and dislikes or whatever, but when something resonates with you. I mean, it's just an
Mm-hmm.
intuitive feeling, and you can tell very frequently what the artist put into it, and you can tell. I mean, if you have any awareness of any kind, I think it's not too hard to pick up on.
So this is kind of a new question for the podcast. I kind of just thought about it, but talking with you kind of made me think about just like everyday jobs where people are artistic and you can tell they're an artist, but they don't really count themselves as an artist.
Mm.
For one, I think my barber is an artist. First I went to him, he was like, I was like, what is happening right now? He like went above and beyond what I ever expected from a barber.
Wow.
And I was like, and afterwards, like he was shaving me like one hair at a time. I was
Wow.
like, what? It took a long time, but he had like a monocle on with like a zoom lens. I was like, what the heck is happening? I've never seen this before. And I was like, after I was done, I was like, wow, this guy's an artist,
Yes.
but he's just doing hair. And I was just wondering if you have any experience in like saying, wow, oh my God, this guy's an artist, or this woman in a field that wouldn't normally be qualified as art.
Most definitely. I think everybody has that spark of creativity and it comes out in different ways. So many people, they'll tell me, oh, I can't even draw a straight line. I say, well, maybe the line should not be straight or whatever. Just do what you feel and, see what you come up with. But, yeah, I would say your barber is definitely an artist. They're a creative. I think that expression comes out and it's really sad when I see, or when I've been working, say, doing workshops with children, and there comes a point where maybe they start to turn off to art or
Mm,
creativity. And I don't know, sometimes maybe they have other interests that have developed, or maybe they've been discouraged and just move on to other things. But I always think that it's a part of life. We all see the world around us, we all interpret it in certain ways. We all want to hopefully leave our own stamp or our own mark on it. And that should be encouraging everybody, no matter what your age is or whatever your background is. We all have that. It should not be tamped down and shunted aside. And unfortunately, in the educational systems we have here, very often art and music are some of the first things to be cut from a budget, or the last to be taken note of in terms of developing a well-rounded program. But yeah, I mean, well, sometimes you'll see, like you say, pointing out about your barber. I'll see someone who's just done something amazing, and it's like, wow, look at that, and it's like,
hmm
yeah,
Speaking of the arts in schools for I guess like kindergarten through 12th grade, my artistic experience back then, I was like, I'm not gonna be an artist whatsoever. I'm not gonna be doing anything like this. But like I always was. I was just doing stuff because everyone
hmm,
was like drawing and stuff,
yeah,
and I was like doing stuff in the computer to
okay,
like drawing things in the computer, editing things together in the computer. And then when I did have art classes, my teachers did not really like my art.
hmm,
I just remember all the time they're like, Hunter, you didn't this. I was like, this is my best creation ever. They're like, no, this is a C plus. Good job. It's like, what are you talking? How?
wow,
And I was just like, and then that made me really think. It was like, it like worked. I didn't really. I was like, well, I think this is still pretty good. So it didn't like discourage me from making art. I was like, art is so subjective. How do you even grade art? How do you say if it's good or bad? As long as person, and I was like, well, if I like it, then it's got to be something. Um, because that kind of did motivate me to be like, oh, well, if I like making something, then it's still good. So that kind of got me to like, I just had to think about it. Kind of open my eyes to making more art later on. Then I was like, I actually really like this, doing my type of art. And now that I've been at Mom's house for so long, we always have our workshops, and
hmm,
I've made so many different types of art now.
great.
Still not very good. Still not the best at painting. I don't think I ever really will, but I do like what I paint and I enjoy it.
Well, that's it. I always say, we really do it for ourselves. We're not trying
Mm,
to, do it for the market or anything. An artist that do, again, like I was saying, you can kind of tell that they're just trying to do something very commercial. But as long as you like it, and maybe painting is not your medium. I cannot do watercolor whatsoever. I end up with
mm,
mud. Everything runs together. My twin brother does beautiful watercolors. I work in acrylic, so we just have our own different styles and medium that we have a great facility with. But I used to do life drawing. I used to model for life drawing art classes years ago, and I would always listen to what the teachers were saying to their students. And some of them were very insistent that they could only do it in a particular way. If you're doing like the body or the arm, of course of course, doing a body is very specific. Hands, they say, and feet are the most difficult things to do, and proportions, a certain proportion to the head, like supposedly lengthwise, your body is like 7 heads long, something like this. But
wow.
again, some of them were the teachers were very discouraging, very again, it's your interpretation of what you're looking at and seeing in a person's body. Some people And again, when I would go around the room during a break and look at people's works of me, everybody had a different perspective. Different colors, different. Something else might have been elongated here or there, and I can't say it was necessarily wrong, but this is maybe how they process the world around them. So and then also working with children. Very often, the goal with the very very young children, like first graders, second graders, is not even to produce a Picasso. It's more so children learning how to share, how to interact with each other, how to socialize together. It's never really about the art at that stage of their development. So, somebody saying that they don't like your work or whatever, to me is just totally wrong. It's just, plain wrong. So,
Mm-hmm.
mhm.
I think a lot of teachers also just hated me because I was just like a troublemaker back in the day. But I was good. I did like the art, so I would do the work, and then they'd be like, finally get me to do the work. And be like, Hunter, this is not that good. I'm like, oh great, so I do it. And you're like, yeah, I'm really gonna do it next time. But it worked
Hmm.
out 100%.
Great.
From our artistic wise, I am very much looking forward to making my own art again soon, which
Good.
is
Yeah,
nice.
you should.
It has been a
Hmm.
while working with all the artists. I don't get too much chance to make my own stuff, but it's coming soon. Everyone listening,
Again, it's for you.
and mm-hmm. And so another thing I'd like to ask you is, so as your favorite medium, I'm assuming is acrylic paint.
Yes.
Are there any other mediums that you would like to start trying?
Before I was working in acrylic, I had done oil, which I didn't like because it takes too long to dry. But prior to that, I was working in pastels. And I
Mm.
really recently pulled out some of those pastels and I was looking at them again and I said, maybe I should go back to working with these and see what I come up with again. Because, again, as I was saying, I go through slumps sometimes. Sometimes I feel as I'm just churning at the same stuff or no new ideas are coming to me. And I say, well, so then I think, well, maybe I should sort of go back and try. But I would do the oil pastels rather than the chalky ones, which I was using before, because I think maybe with the oil pastels, I might be able to get a little more definition. And I just still have a few little pieces of ceramics left around from my early days, but I don't think I would move back into ceramics. I would really like to try doing some sculpture or something
Mm.
with like found pieces, but and I have like boxes of, I'll just call it junk right now, just stuff. I said I'd take these out and try to either weld them together or connect them somehow and come up with something. But again, it would have to be something that I would have to feel is authentic. It can't be just something I'll just put this there, put that there, and just mush it together and call it art. I wouldn't be able to do that.
And there are a lot of sculptors who do that, and then
Yes.
I'm like, they find like a stick, and they're like, put
Mm.
this stick with this stick, and here we go.
Yeah.
And I was just like, it's done. How does that even happen? I don't
Yes.
know that like there's some of the sculptures. There's a lot of amazing sculptures, like, especially I think sculpting with metal right now
Oh yeah.
is a big thing. It takes lots of skill. Even just once you having to like just putting things together like wood is very different than having to like weld things together so it's like
Yeah.
permanent. Um, I feel it takes more intention to make things like that. Um, my favorite sculptor right now is he was an artist here before. His name is Simone Vega, and he does
Mhm.
sculptures of only found objects. He was at the parish a couple months ago,
Ah.
um, and he was an artist in residence. So
Ah.
his stuff's amazing. If you like Star Wars or anything, he's like very much into space and stuff. So he makes like spaceships and space pods and space stations,
Amazing.
and they're like giant sometimes. And those are
Wow.
all out of found objects. So that's kind of right up what you're thinking about doing. Um,
I'll have to look him up and see his work. See, that sounds fascinating.
yeah,
Yeah.
I like saw it and I was like, oh my god, what the heck?
Wow.
How's this even possible?
Right.
Um, and then thankfully, because the podcast, I was able to interview him, and it was a great time. Um,
Mm.
I so yeah, Simone Vega, if you're interested in him,
I will. I'll look him
and
up. Yeah.
so how did I guess you get in contact with Jeremy and Brianna, and how did they find you?
I really don't remember. I think the first time I met Jeremy, he was taking photographs for the New York Times, and it was for a small article they had done. And so I think he photographed me in front of the Eastville Community Heritage House here in Sag Harbor, and then maybe over by the St. David AME Zion Church Cemetery. And that's when we first met, but oh, it's a shame. I really cannot recall. Um, yeah, that's I'll have to search my memory banks and go back,
Yeah,
to see.
that's
But
that's perfectly fine. I mean, that's just
yeah,
it's very funny. Like, yeah, he was just happened to be photographing me for the New York Times, very casually. Um, it's like, have you ever been on any artist residencies before?
I was an artist in residence at Southampton Art Center.
Mm-hmm.
In 2020, it's called Takeover 2020, and we were there for about a month, and then COVID hit.
Oh,
So yeah, then everything shut down. Of course, they did try going back in July of that year for a very brief period of time, but I was not comfortable going out anywhere, doing anything. So I just went back and finished packing up my works and came home. But that was my only artist in residence period.
okay. Well, in case you remember, how did your way of art kind of make? How did your way of making your art change when you were on your residency, rather than when you're at your own studio or doing it wherever you do it usually?
Actually, it was very difficult to do because I would just get into a painting and another curious person would come through and I'd have
Hmm.
to stop what I was doing and explain my work, my process. So it was actually very difficult to complete any works. There is one of the paintings there. It's the one that's crab catchers. It's the young man in a boat. You'll see he's got a basket full of blue crabs. And anything else, all the other animals that are featured in that painting are other enemies of blue crabs: the raccoon, the egret, the heron, the turtle. Um, I started that in 2020. I really only finished it maybe a year ago, and I kind
Well,
of lost the whole theme of where I was going with it and everything. It just was almost impossible. I really just couldn't finish really any works during that residency. If I could have sat quietly and done my work, it would have been good. Not that I'm criticizing, but it was, a first experience for me, and I just really maybe it was the flow was different. I just really couldn't
yeah,
function the way I normally do.
that's interesting. Well, if you're ever interested in doing residency again, I know the Moss House residency. We do not care if you sit in your room for 4 days straight
Oh, that would be
just to
great.
work. Yeah, we do. We do. We also do that all the time, and it's just they're just focusing on their work. And sometimes people will show up for like a to come visit Moss House, but they're always there for this whatever show's on, and
I
you just have them
see.
outside the room. And
Hmm.
then so you might be interested in that. I think they're only 2 weeks, so you're not going to be there for months. But um,
I would be interested in that definitely.
yeah,
Yes.
I think Jeremy would be like, "Oh yes, perfect." And then you'd have to do a workshop though with acrylic paint,
That's fine.
and then I'd go. Yeah, I'd be excited to do that.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
let's see. So you have talked about it a little bit more, but I guess are there any, or you've talked about a little before about what inspires your art, but are there any people, are there any other artists that have inspired your art as well?
Yeah, early on, I'm still inspired by the works of Henri Rousseau, the French painter who does a lot of, well, of course he has different styles, but the ones that I resonate more so with are his outdoor, almost jungly scenes with very deep jewel tones, a lot of vegetation in them. Sometimes there are animals involved. The early works of Romare Bearden, the African American artist, also inspired me. And then Aaron Douglas, who's also an African American artist. Sometimes the angles and different planes of light that he used in his work, I find very inspirational. And those are the main ones that I still harken back to. Um, Current artists, it would be hard to say. I can just go pop in somewhere and see an exhibit and look at some very, very um, inspiring work. Sometimes it may be just the colors, not so much the subject matter that I find moving. And about a month or two ago, I was looking online at abstract work by African American artists. And some of those works, I tried one abstract painting maybe 30 years ago. And again, like I'm saying, it didn't feel authentic to me. Abstract work is not always something that I personally can comprehend. I'm not sure what the artist is saying. And if it's
Yeah.
untitled, that's even worse. It's like, okay, where were they going with this? And abstract is something I would like to do, but again, it would be more so um, not so much the energy that's in the work, but the blending of the colors and the positioning and things like that. What color might clash or balance with something else. So I don't know. Maybe at some point I'll try something different. I'll work on something more graphic and abstract as opposed to my
Hmm.
very detailed works.
Hmm. That's interesting. So I definitely want to ask you about some of the. I think we have 3 other pieces that I want to discuss.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think I'm going to butcher the name of
Wigwagonock?
Winognock Wigwagonock.
Yes,
That's how you say it. Okay.
yes. That
Yeah, can you tell us a
is
little about that one?
that is the name of Sag Harbor Village when it was populated by indigenous people. It means land at the foot of the hill. And there is a
Hmm.
stone with a plaque on it very near that where the village was along Sag Harbor Bay. And I'm not sure which people were there. I'm not sure if it was Montaukett, Manhasset. I once read there was Narragansett people who were there, but I don't think they were necessarily the too friendly with the indigenous people here on Long Island. But I wanted to do something that I thought might have been their village with people in it. And as you see, there's a well in the background, which, of course, as we all know, the native peoples here were very involved with the whaling industry. They taught the settlers, colonizers, how to whale, basically, and that whole commercial industry that Sag Harbor became well known and became wealthy started basically with the indigenous people. But at the other end of the painting, you'll see a small bark or a ship in the background, which sort of presages the doom of the native people here as well. But the foreground are the people going about their daily lives with women, children, the men getting ready to go out and catch the whale. So I find it a very, again, locally based, indigenous based painting that, again, is, I'm sure 95% of the people in Sag Harbor probably have no idea that there was an Indian village there or what the name of it was. So this is, again, a historical piece that I feel is important to bring forth into the current conversation.
It's an amazing piece. It is the like when you look at the name of the whole exhibit, it's right there, and I feel like it kind of what's the word for it? But it kind of God, I hate that I can't remember this word. Oh well, I'll find another way to say it. Um, it's kind of like the oh my god. All right, I'm gonna have to mark this because I feel like an idiot right now.
Mm-hmm.
The I want to say centerpiece, but I've already used that word like 3 times. But I'll use it again. Okay, so it's kind of like the centerpiece of the whole show. More like it brings the whole show together in a way. It has like a piece of everything. Um, I don't know. I might just take that. That made no sense. But I really like that piece. One of my favorites in the show. I would give it. I would say top 5 in the show for sure for me.
Wow, thank you,
Hmm.
thank you.
And
Yeah,
my number 1 is definitely the window pane one, which I
wow, that's
already forgot the
amazing.
name.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Um,
Um, yes. There's a couple more of them. I want to go. We can just do them pretty quickly now. Just go right through them all. The melting pot, the melting pot
yeah, melting pot
redo
redux.
redux.
Um, Early on, shortly after I had moved out here and started really producing a lot of work, I had done that whole melting pot series, which are those sort of like little hills, but then the faces of people sort of peering out at you. And that one that's there, I had also taken some acrylic medium gel and actually gave the noses sort of a 3D aspect. And again, it's my um, way of sort of portraying it. And you don't really see it so much in that one that's on exhibit at Moss House, but it's my way of portraying African American people with different ethnic backgrounds, different ancestries, because a lot of people don't even know their own backgrounds or ethnic makeups or histories, and we're not a monolith. Nobody's really a monolith. Everybody, even in Europe, they're all a conglomeration of different peoples that invaded from somewhere else. And so people here also in this new world, on this continent, especially African American people who may have been forced rape, maybe it was coercion, maybe it was actually love or something. But there's so much different backgrounds in people, and I just wanted to sort of bring that forth in that whole series, the Melting Pot series, which I don't even really like the term melting pot per se, but I kind of asked. I didn't know what to call that series, and someone else came up with that idea. But if I had my druthers, I would probably rename it. But at this point, it's too far gone to rename anything.
I think that's a pretty good name for what you're trying to get across.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Makes sense to me, at least.
Okay.
Got to count for something. Now I'm thinking about it. We might have already talked about this piece. The baleen in blue. Actually, I don't think we have.
No, we have not. And that is actually a gray whale, which typically would be a grayish brown in color. And I just decided I wanted to do it in blue. And the background is, again, sort of my interest in ancient mythology. The background is sort of like that cracked walls that you might see in ancient Crete or Minos or somewhere in the Mediterranean. And that I always find that inspiring because even though those walls or whatever they are, those mosaics may be damaged, they've sort of been able to withstand the test of time. They may be fragmented, but there's still some aspects of them here. And I just wanted to do that background, which I always find very, very inspiring. And I'm able to bring in the different blues and give it the sea aspect. And I think there's some squid in there, which is the main food source of that type of a whale. And then just some sort of made-up fish at the bottom of the painting.
It's very nice. I really like the ones in the ocean, like the waves, especially. I've always loved waves, especially just like going out in the ocean, letting the waves hit me. I used to like to challenge the ocean as a kid, and I'd always lose. You're always gonna lose to the ocean, but
yeah, that's
like,
right. You'll
what's
get knocked down.
how much power?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, how strong can I fight back against the ocean was always fun for me as a kid.
Wow. Mm. Well, you
Even
ever
now.
caught in a riptide?
Yes, I have.
Yes. That's scary. That's
Yeah, it
scary.
is. Me and my friend, one of my best friends, we had these. We were on vacation. It's like right after high school. It's like we just graduated. We were like, okay, let's go to Florida. We went and I brought these snorkel glasses or
Mm-hmm.
goggles,
Right.
and me and my friend were like trying to chase fish under the water. And then we like looked back and we're like, how the hell did we get over here? And we
Yes.
were just getting like pulled out so far.
Yep.
So um, I was trying to explain to him. He was like a very strong guy. I was like trying to explain to him, Jesse, you're not gonna beat the ocean. So I had to like show him how to get out of it. Just kind of go with the flow. We eventually did get out of it, but our friends were like, "What? Where did you guys go?" Like, well, we almost died, buddy,
Yeah.
but we lived,
Right. Right.
and we got out of there. We're just chasing some damn fish, and things went horribly wrong really quickly.
Yes. Very quickly. Right. Right. Right.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And it was, and we looked up when we got back, and they had the red flag, which is like don't even go in there. I think there,
Mm-hmm.
or it was red or black, and I was like, oh my god, why did we go in here? That could have been the end.
Oh
Uh,
wow.
yeah,
Yeah.
we just didn't notice. I mean, we were being dumb, but we lived.
Thank
But yeah,
God.
do not mess with riptides, everybody. Always
Mm-mm.
check for the flag, see what's going on at the beach.
That's right.
If
That's
you're gonna go
right.
swimming,
Yeah.
because especially if you're not a strong swimmer, just lay back and go wherever the waves take you. If they're going left or the right, if they're taking you out really far, I don't know what to tell you. You're done probably. You're gonna have to get someone to help you.
That's encouraging.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I have to be real a little bit. Ocean is not, and never turn your back to the ocean. That's another good rule. When you're fighting
Ah.
waves, never turn your back because it'll just knock you down. It
Yeah,
always
yeah.
does.
Then you end up all
Just
of the
don't.
you get gritted on the sand.
Yeah, your back. You'll stand back up. Your back will be annihilated, full of sand and rocks.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, used
Hmm.
to happen to me all the time. It was kind of fun in the moment, getting like flipped around. Then you stand up, and you're like, my
Yes.
back.
Right.
Yeah,
Right. Your bathing suit is full of
yeah, your bathing's
pebbles and
full of
sand.
sand,
Oh God.
and then you gotta walk home, or not walk home. Then you gotta get in the car, and your parents can like knock off all the sand, and then you gotta like
Yes.
pounds of sand are falling out of your bathing suit. You're like, well, keep shaking, Hunter. Sorry, it's not stopping. Too much sand. So I have another question I have, that just from looking at your art.
Mhm.
What is your favorite sea animal? If I had to, I see turtle appearing every once in a while. That's
Hmm.
mine, so I always notice it. I guess, which is your favorite to draw, or not draw, to paint?
That's an interesting question. I don't know. I think blowfish, probably.
Hmm.
And again, in the painting with Professor Van Houten, all the fish around the border of that painting are fish that you would catch in the local waters here. And I remember as a kid, I never had luck fishing. Once I caught a nice sized porgy, and that was it. Um, but I think blowfish, I think, are would be my favorite fish to paint, because when they're all puffed up, I like the colors in there, the different shades of like orange and brown, and the white big belly. Just it's a cute fish. That's what I'll say.
Hmm. I don't think I've ever gotten one of those before. Interesting. I used to really like fishing. I guess, I still do really like fishing, but I haven't. Now that I'm like surrounded by water, so since I moved back here a couple years ago, I'm like, oh my god, I don't even really want to fish anymore. But before, I'd be like looking to fish somewhere.
Wow, wow.
Yeah.
I like
Now I'm like,
cleaning
I could just
fish.
walk downstairs cleaning them.
Yeah. Hmm.
Oh my god, I hated doing that.
A lot of people do.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I just didn't know how to do it. No one taught me how to do it. And then my dad's like, okay, Hunter, get the fish ready. I'm like, what? And then I like absolutely butchered it trying to do it.
Oh
And
gosh,
then they had to
really?
cook it, and I was like, geez, sorry guys.
Was it edible at least?
I don't even. I think I tried it. I think my dad must. I think all
Oh.
my sisters were like, no, thank you.
Uh-huh.
I don't want this. I'll stick to the store bought salmon.
Uh-huh.
So I don't even know what kind of fish it was. Something weird. And then I don't think I even had the right knife. I don't know why they made me do that.
That's probably what it was. Yeah,
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 I
yeah. Uh-huh.
had the. I watched the YouTube video. I was like, okay, let's see this how you do it. And then I tried to do it, and I was just like, oh my god, this is not the right knife. So I just did what I could.
Oh, funny. Oh,
Yeah,
gosh.
you have a lot of stories of me just like being told like, okay, Hunter, can you do this? I'm like, yeah. And then I try to do it. It does not go great.
Yeah.
But I did what I could. Um, yeah, and I guess with the boat and the fish, and so far the record and the almost getting taken out to sea,
Yeah,
the
that
ocean.
doesn't sound like you have a good track record there, Hunter.
No, I do not. But that's part of the fun. Learning.
That's right.
I know my strengths. I'm not going to be the one
That's true. That's true.
that cleans the
Hmm.
fish at least
Hmm.
very well. If you want it done
Yes.
properly, don't come to me. If you just want it done, if you want it done, you can come to me.
Yes.
Yeah. So when you, I guess, first started calling yourself an artist, where did you see your artistic career going?
It was always my goal, which I'll probably never realize, would be able to support myself on my creative efforts. But I guess I'm past that point. I just, again, because then you sort of start mass producing or doing whatever. But I would also like to be, recognized as an artist, and have my works in different museums or institutions or something like that. So, but I just want to be able to continue painting and doing my thing. Basically, is what my real goal is. I don't ever want to stop. I consider myself retired now professionally, and thank God I had this to fall back on, because sometimes some people, they don't have anything else that they are interested in doing, or they have hobbies or whatever, but they're not really able to carry on with it. So I'm lucky to be able to carry on with my painting, and that's my goal basically.
Hmm. Do you have a work that you're most proud of?
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, I would say it was one that's called The Growth of the Great Meadow, which is again a larger painting. It shows the village of Sag Harbor throughout different time periods. So everything that's in that painting there would not have coexisted at the same time. Like there are salt mills, there are the old windmills, there's some other structures and buildings like warehouses along the waterfront, and then some of the major institutions like again like the Whaling Museum or the Presbyterian Church, some cemeteries, and then different houses and stuff. But it's a relatively large painting, and it's one of those that I've done in my very very tiny scale, like the houses maybe half the size of your pinky nail or something like that. So,
Wow, what?
yeah, yes. Again, I use very fine brushes, but then I use magnifying glasses also, magnifying
Hmm.
glass to get the definition that I need. And I
Dang.
was even able to throw a few little tiny, tiny people in there, but it's one that took a lot of time. I went back and forth, would put it down, go back to it. I also did that with Wegwagonock, but the scale is very different with that. But yeah, I think that's probably one of the ones that I'm most proud of. And I've had 4 dance covers, and that one was on one of Dan's covers, as was
Oh yes,
Baleen and
I meant to
Blue.
bring that up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
you're like a Dan's paper cover regular. Bailey and Blue, yeah, that's the one I have pulled up right now, actually.
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm.
That's fun. And then let's see down here. Um, it doesn't say which one this one is, but it just says this is an older one. Using someone we always get the new Dan's paper whenever it comes out. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
Jeremy's been in there a lot, and
Oh, I'm
my mom. I think
sure.
you've met my mom as well.
Yes, yes.
Um, yeah, the kelp. I think the kelp farmers are in there once or twice. So, but we've always liked to get them. They always have nice covers, and they're always free, which is nice. So it's kind of
Exactly.
like kind of a nice staple of the Hamptons. People who
Yeah, yeah.
live in the area, like, oh, no Dan's paper, and they see it and they're like, oh, let's pick it up, see what's new.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, those crazy articles of dance also. I used to think they were real. and, then and then I realized, wait a minute, now this is going too far off the mark here. So
It's like a hidden gem of the Hamptons, honestly. The
yes.
Dan's paper. Not
Mm-hmm.
many people know about. I mean, everyone knows about it, but not many people really know about Dan's
No,
paper.
no. It's getting hard to find in some spots. So it used to be everywhere, but
Mm-hmm.
I guess they're not dropping them off the way they used to. There's specific, lobbies or whatever. So yeah.
It seems they drop a ton of them off in like a couple places now, instead of a couple of
Mm.
them off in
Mm-hmm.
different places.
Yeah.
Like my favorite deli doesn't get them anymore,
Oh,
or
that's
if they
too
do,
bad.
they're never there, but they're
Mm-hmm.
always at the grocery store.
Oh,
On your way out, there's a whole stand. There's like I think there's one other paper, but I don't care about them. It's just always the Dan's paper has like a million copies, and I take like 3 or 4,
oh,
and
good for
then
you. Yeah.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
I'm always on the lookout for them now. That's how you know it's like staple of the Hamptons. Wherever you are, if they have Dan's paper, you're like, okay,
That's
this is where I'm
right.
supposed to
That's
be.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um. Let's see. I think we've reached the end of the podcast. I
My
think.
goodness.
I
Time
know.
flies.
Time does fly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um. Let's see. Yeah, I've run out of things to ask, but at the end of the podcast, I mentioned to you before, I like to give the artist the opportunity to share any social medias they have, and they don't have any. But anyways, people can contact you in case they want to have you for a show, or any shout out any organizations or people you want to shout out. The floor is just yours to say whatever you want.
Well, one thing, I've been very involved with the Eastville Community Historical Society in Sag Harbor, and our Heritage House, our meeting house, is in bad need of a new roof. So we are having a fundraiser on June 19th, actually Juneteenth. It's a Jubilee. It's a white party at LTV Studios. It's a Wednesday, June 19th at 5:30. So we're encouraging everyone to attend. Tickets are $75. So please, if you can make it, do turn out and wear your white and come have a good time. We're going to have a DJ. We're going to have a gospel quartet. We will be honoring certain members or collaborators and people who have been with us throughout our almost 40 years of existence. So please, if you can make it, do come out.
Is that LTV?
LTV Studios in East Hampton. Yes.
I
Mm-hmm.
love LTV. They're
Yeah,
great.
they're great. They're great.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a very even I haven't had a chance to really utilize everything they have there, but it's very underutilized by the
I
community. They have so
agree.
much stuff.
It's very underutilized. I don't know why that is. I think they're finally, trying to get themselves out there. But gosh, I mean, it's great space that they have. So
Yeah, it's
yeah.
truly amazing. And I think you just had to go there, talk to them, and then to go over it's pretty short. Just make sure you don't say anything you're not supposed to say on public access situation.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And then once you're sign papers, you're like, okay. And it's $30 to produce your own show, and they have people there to work the cameras and stuff. It's amazing there. Great place.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
And they do internships for all the young people. I don't know how many young people we have listening to this, but if you're fresh out of college and you're interested, they do offer internships for camera and all sorts of things. So
that's a great opportunity.
And they're always looking.
Mm-hmm. That's great. Yeah.
I've been trying to convince people to go there, but it is hard in a weird area if you don't live in Southampton or Sag Harbor or anywhere.
Exactly.
If you live in the North Fork, you're not going to want to go all the way around every day.
That's right. That's right.
And for the people over here in particular, use it while it's there. And yeah, so I also want. Do you have any other shows coming up? Any new pieces coming?
Yes. In July, I will be exhibiting at Keys Gallery in Sag Harbor here. I think it's I don't know. I don't have the exact date or time. I think it's July 11th, but I'm not sure. So just keep your eyes posted at Julie Keys Gallery in Sag Harbor in July. And then in August, I will be at the church as part of the Celebrating Community Creatives group. Again, I don't have the exact date in August, but I'm trying to have a more low-key year than, because last year I was here, there, and everywhere, and it was just too much, really. It was kind of crazy. So I'm trying to keep things at a minimum.
Awesome. Well, to everyone listening, come check out our show. It's open until June 29th. It's on. You can come see it any day you want. By appointment, though, you have to reach out to Jeremy or just by the Instagram and set up a tour for yourself. I think we're going to be having another opening for everyone going to show up whenever they want, some point soon. And Michael, thank you so much for being on. This was very informative for me, and I enjoyed learning about you, talking to you. So thank you so much for that.
Oh, you're welcome, Hunter. Thank you very much for this opportunity. It's been great talking with you as well. Yes. Really wonderful.
I appreciate it. And to everyone listening who made it to the end, we appreciate you as well. And we'll catch you guys on the next episode of the Miles House Podcast.